morning. It's just gone 7 o'clock. Welcome to the programme. Today marks an extraordinary day. It's the first anniversary of Russian troops invading Ukraine. We remember it well a year ago,
Very well.
don't
We were here, and the moment it happened, it was an invasion that Russia thought would take just days to complete. But in the 12 months since the start of the war, thousands of civilians have been killed, with more than 13 million people fleeing abroad or being displaced within Ukraine.
The First Lady, Alina Zelenska, say the country will not mark the first anniversary today, but instead remember a year of successful resilience.
We can speak to Jonathan Swain now, who's at a military base in the UK, where a special service is happening with Ukrainian troops who are being trained there. Jonathan, tell us what's going on this morning.
Morning, Ben. Morning, Kate. I'll have to whisper a little bit because the parade service is taking place as I speak. They're happy for us to obviously broadcast, but here this morning we have British soldiers standing shoulder to shoulder, really, with the Ukrainians who they are helping to train in various bases around the UK. And this service today is about commemorating those who've been killed, remembering them, but also paying tribute to the bravery of the Ukrainian people and, of course, the Ukrainian soldiers. Let me just step out of shot because to my left-hand side, you've got the British troops here who've been assisting and training with the Ukrainians now for the past year. And then if you just pan the camera around to the left, at the far distance in there, we have the Ukrainian troops. There's hundreds of them here in the UK at the moment. And what's really struck me, Ben and Kate, is yesterday I was on a base with the Ukrainians and the British military. And a few weeks ago, they were just taking part in their normal lives. One chap I spoke to was a car dealer in Ukraine. Another man that I spoke to, who we're about to hear from now, he's a dad, but actually he runs a sweet shop and also a bakery in the country.
Everything were new for me from military point of view, just how to take care about my rifle armament, how to use and provide the tactics, the combat medicine. Right now I am skillful enough to help myself and my partners on the battlefield.
More than 10,000 Ukrainians have been trained last year. The British government are showing a huge commitment to supporting Ukrainians in their military effort. 20,000 or so more Ukrainians are going to be back on bases like this this year to be trained. And I spoke to one of the trainers from the Irish Guards who explained what that training involves.
The key thing here is that they are incredibly focused and very motivated and patriotic about the cause, clearly. So in terms of a receptive audience, yeah, they're fantastic and have been incredibly receptive to what we've had to teach them and have improved enormously.
Well, as you can hear in the background, there's a Ukrainian translation that's taking place behind me. And the UK, of course, is a major supporter of the conflict. £2.3 billion of military aid has been given to the Ukrainians, not just troops as well assisting, but also in terms of military hardware as well. The anti-tank missiles have been very effective for the Ukrainians on the front line. Also armoured vehicles, helicopters, battle tanks as well. There are also plans as well for the UK to train Ukrainian fighter jet pilots as well. But sunrise service is taking place here at this military base in the UK. What you can see in the distance is that's the Ukrainians. They want to cover their identities for obvious reasons, to protect not just their identity, but the families who are back in the country. I should probably pause now as we pause for the last post.
So moving, isn't it? Looking at those men and possibly women, it's hard to tell, with their faces covered for their protection of their families back home in that war zone, and the efforts to go to train them here from the key military teams here, and yet going back to continue that fight and that extraordinary resilience.
Just hearing the last post is so stirring for all of us, of course.
Yes.
But relative to all of those Ukrainians who are fighting so hard in resistance to the Russians. Very moving indeed. Our chief correspondent, Richard Gaisford, is in Kyiv for us this morning, where there has been another service there, Richard. About an hour ago, President Zelensky was addressing the nation and giving out medals, wasn't he?
Yeah, very moving scenes here as well, right in the heart of Kyiv. It's something of a show of strength, of defiance, that the president was able to stand here in the square, surrounded by hundreds of soldiers, many of whom had come back from the front lines to be given their heroes' medals. Emotional scenes too, Ben, because as those medals were given out, the families, the mothers, the wives of those who've died also stepped forward to receive a medal to honour the actions of those who have fought so valiantly over the last year. It is such a contrast this morning to what we saw a year ago, right here in Kyiv, as the bombs started to fall, the air raids sirens wailed. The country then had no idea really how it was going to deal with this Russian attack, but it has done so with such amazing force. It has stood up, as you've said, with resilience to that Russian invasion. No one's quite sure what happens next, but the Ukrainians really believe that for them, victory is the only way out of this conflict. Fighting in the east has become more intense as Russia tries to gain ground after a year of this conflict. It currently holds about a fifth of Ukrainian territory, Bakhmut the current focus of its firepower. Straight from the front line in Bakhmut is a man who swaps tennis whites for army fatigues. Sergei Stakhovsky is best known in Britain for beating Roger Federer on centre court at Wimbledon. Now, instead of serving aces, he's firing mortars at Russian troops outside of Bakhmut, scene of fierce and bloody fighting.
It's the front line. We get shot at, we shoot too, we kill, and yeah, it's pretty much as close as it gets. You get used to shots, you get used to shells, you get used to missiles incoming, you get used to everything.
Last night, President Zelensky told the nation that in the east it's very painful, but everything was being done to withstand it. A lot's changed in 12 months for him and his country since the first explosions were heard on February the 24th. He appears to have launched a full-scale invasion that looks very much like it's going to be all-out war. Russian losses have been huge, estimated to be in excess of 145,000 men and billions of dollars worth of equipment. The shape of the conflict changing daily, largely driven by the Western weapons that have been sent to help push Russia out. But soldiers like Sergei, fighting in some of the most challenging areas of the conflict, are fully aware of the need for more arms and ammunition if the war's to be won quickly.
We're holding the line, but with a lot of sacrifice, I would say. The price we're paying now daily is lives of Ukrainians. There will be victory. The question is the cost.
But with a little help, or maybe a lot of help?
A lot of help.
In favor, 141.
Overnight, the United Nations overwhelmingly voted to condemn the Russian invasion, calling for its troops to be withdrawn. Battle-scarred but still standing, resilient Ukraine pushes on for victory against its aggressor. It's an outcome today that's more likely than anyone could have thought possible 1 year ago. Richard Gaisford, Good Morning Britain, Kyiv.